Namaste. Greetings to Bodhi TV. Today my guest is Miss Meredith Polson from USA. She has been studying Buddhism in Nepal. She has just taken the Madhyamika class in Bodhi, Kathmandu, and is currently studying the text The Way of Bodhisattva by Shantideva and Rangjung Yese Institute. She started studying Buddhism online during the pandemic and has recently come Kathmandu this year. Namo Buddhaya, Miss Meredith Polson. How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Very great. So let's begin our interview today. Will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Meredith Polson. I am from Virginia in the United States, and I've been studying Buddhism for about 3 years.
So what was your family and education like?
Sure. So I was raised Christian in the United States, and my mother and father divorced when I was quite young. I was raised bi-coastal, so I was raised on the west coast and the east coast of the United States. I have studied biochemistry at the University of St. Andrews in Scotland in the United Kingdom. And my career is around project management at data technology companies.
Wow, great. So what made you interested in Buddhism?
Well, I became interested in Buddhism when I was looking for something more meaningful in my life. And I've always been interested in enlightenment and the search for happiness and what is truly of value and of true meaning in this world. And I've studied a lot of different traditions on my own time, and I've come to find that I think that Buddhism has some of the most authentic teachers in the world, historically and in our contemporary times. So I really wanted to learn more about Buddhism and find more about the Buddha. So recently I've visited the birthplace of the Buddha in Lumbini. So obviously the Buddha was born in Nepal, in Lumbini, a very sacred place. And also I visited Bodh Gaya in India, where he gained enlightenment. I had a very profound experience in Bodh Gaya, visiting with members of my Sangha and with my teacher, Chokyi Rinpoche.
Great, you had a great privilege to affiliated with all those great gurus in monastery. Right. So I believe it's life-changing experience to come in Nepal all the way from USA. So actually what made you come in Nepal? What made you?
Sure. So as you said, I've been studying online for a while. During the pandemic is when I became interested in studying Buddhism, and I was studying online with Rangjung Yese Institute. They are affiliated with Kathmandu University, and I'm going to transfer into their MA prep program next semester. And so I've been studying online with them, and I'd also been taking some practice courses called the Tara Triple Excellence course, which is offered by Chokyi Rinpoche. So he is the abbot of the Kaning Shedrabling Monastery here in Bodhi in Kathmandu. And so I'd been taking his course for about 6 months when he announced that in order to progress on the course, one would need certain empowerments. So this is part of the Vajrayana program. So the Tara Triple Excellence program is very unique in the fact that it takes you all the way from Theravada to Mahayana to Vajrayana. It's a complete teaching, right?
Wow.
And we're getting it directly from Chokyi Rinpoche, and he is of the lineage of the Tertan, the treasure finder, Chogyur Lingpa, who brought this teaching and brought it to the world. And so I've been studying it for 6 months, and he said, if you want to continue with it, you have to get some empowerments, right? Wow. And he was offering these empowerments in the Pyrenees in France. And I said, okay, I need to go to France to get these empowerments. And I had no intention of coming to Kathmandu, actually, because I was content to study online, and I was very excited about it, getting teachings from monastics online. And I'd been taking some summer intensive courses, and I'd been studying the Way of the Bodhisattva online. And so when I went, I really just went to get these empowerments. But, when I met Chokini Rinpoche, and I was really blown away by what an amazing teacher he was, because I'd only received teachings from him online thus far. And I was able to meet members of the Sangha, and his Sangha is so incredible, such kind and wonderful people. And I don't really know anything about Buddhism, obviously. I'm such a newcomer. I really hardly know anything about Buddhism. And to be welcomed by such an amazing group of people was really life-changing for me. It was a life-changing just week, basically, in France, meeting Rinpoche, and it had this profound effect on me. So that when I went back to Virginia, I came back to Virginia and I went to sleep, and then I woke up and I thought, this isn't my life anymore, Buddhism had, without my knowledge, just completely and utterly changed me. And I really had to come to Bodhi to study directly with Chokini Rinpoche and at Ranjang Yeshe Institute.
Wow.
In order to study the Dharma more completely, and to really try to learn about the Dharma, learn about the Buddha, and try to become a scholar practitioner, as Chokini Rinpoche would say. Yeah.
Great. So how did you find Nepal? I mean, what did you expect there, and how did you find?
I didn't know what to expect, right? My friend had lived here before, and all I knew was that she lived with roommates, and she lived in Bodhi, and the stupa was really important to her. And then when I got here, I was really just blown away by how kind and generous everybody in Kathmandu is. And I mean, I've traveled quite extensively throughout my lifetime, and I think that the Nepali people are so kind, honestly, and very welcoming, very generous with their time, and really, really nice to foreigners. And also just, I was blown away by what a melting pot Kathmandu is, because I had just kind of been expecting it to be just kind of like one people, one city. But really, Kathmandu there's so many different cultures here, and so many people living here from all over the world. I mean, you have people from India, you have people from China, you have people from the West, you have people from South America. It's just everyone is here in Kathmandu, and I really love it. Honestly, it's really nice to be able to come in and start to kind of find a guest house to stay in, and like finding the nice guest house and finding nice friends. And honestly, I've been here such a short period of time, but I've made so many lovely friends. It's been really overwhelming.
Great.
Yeah.
So did you face any cultural shocks also?
I think I'm not so used to all the spicy food, right? So we're Americans, we like sweet food, we like fatty food. So having a lot of spicy food was a lot. And I love thali sets now. When I first had a thali set, I said, this is the last time I'm ever going to have a thali set, But that is not the case. I eat thali almost every day now. Yeah, so there's a huge shock with the food, also with the water. I think, just having to bring in my own drinking water is something I've never really had to do before. And I think just sometimes you have all the blackouts that happen, so that's kind of different. But overall, even though there's been an adjustment, right? It's still a really lovely place. I think the weather is amazing. Nepali people don't understand how amazing their weather is. I think one of my teachers was talking about that. The sun is always shining here.
Yeah.
It's always very warm and balmy. Yeah. Even this winter was, I think, unseasonably warm, and so it really was like, it's been like a quite nice experience
Quite experience.
just to be here. Yeah. Oh yeah, obviously the traffic is a lot, right? It's a lot, you know. Even just coming to the studio today, I'm just looking around, there's all these buildings and there's other cars, and I'm just like, I have no idea where I am right now. You know, and I live off the main road near Bodhi, and just there's constant just honking, and I tried to stay at a guest house one time, and I booked this room, and I was staying at Tarlan Monastery, which is a really great place to stay. And then I was like, okay, let me find this new apartment. And so I moved to this apartment. It was so close to the main road, though. It drove me insane, honestly, because there was all this music playing, all this noise. I couldn't handle it. I had only stayed there for a few hours. I had to leave immediately because the traffic and the noise. Like the noise, I think, is the biggest culture shock, actually. With the birds and the dogs, it's just, there's always something going on. Yeah.
Sorry for that.
No, I think it's an adjustment. In America, everything's so quiet all the time, unless you're in a big city.
Yeah.
You know, and here it's hard to find like a little bit of quiet. So if you find some quiet, you have to hold on to it. You know, it's the most important thing. Yeah.
So I think there is no language problem because most of the Nepalese, they can speak English, and the English environment as well. So how do you find about language itself? No.
Yeah, the language is quite easy.
Yeah.
I'm kind of wondering sometimes, like, is English the official language of Nepal? Because you see the police cars and it says Nepali police.
Oh, Nepali.
You know,
police.
it doesn't say Nepali police in Nepali. It says it in English.
English, yeah.
Yeah, so everybody speaks English. I do want to learn Nepali. That's one of my aspirations for my time here, is that I learn Nepali. My Nepali is very bad at the moment, but I think it would be a great honor to learn it and just to be able to speak it with people because they're so kind in speaking English to me. And it's really not hard to get around at all. So I think it would be good, though, just to learn the language, for sure.
So I wish you all the best. One day we can speak fluently in Nepali.
I hope so, too.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So nice. So what do you think Buddhism is? Is it a religion or way of life or science?
I really don't think it's a religion. You know, I think that's a huge misconception about Buddhism. Again, I'm such a newcomer, so I don't know that much, but my teacher, Chokni Rinpoche, has emphasized that it's not a religion. And it is, I think it's more of a combination of a way of life and science and philosophy. You know, it's not any one thing because Buddhism is telling us the truth about reality. It's telling us this is how things are, and it's up to us to question what's being told to us, right? So it's a philosophy, and it's exploring these different thought systems, but it's a science because it's saying this is how things are, but you should test it. Don't accept it. You know, this is a hypothesis. As I'm trained as a scientist as my undergrad, and you know, we have to test our hypotheses. Right? And so the Buddha told us not to take anything at face value, right? And so when the Buddha says that things are impermanent, what does that mean? You know, when the Buddha talks about cause and effect, like what does that mean? You know, that everything is suffering. Well, how is everything suffering? Because I think I have a pretty great life, right? And it's also a way of life, though, because we're called upon to be kind and compassionate to all other beings, and that takes a lot of practice in my belief. You know, you can't just start being kind to everybody because it's really hard because we have all these negative emotions, we have all these afflictions, and we have all this ignorance, and we don't know how to be kind to other people because we're so caught up in like me and mine, and I don't want you encroaching on my territory, I don't want you cheating me, I don't want you taking my money. You know, and that's a really strong feeling in each of us, right? And so how do I work with that? How do I become someone who would give up everything I own to someone who's treated me? How do I do that? I really don't know how to do that. I don't know. And so I think that's how it's a way of life. And so but the philosophy part, like you mentioned, I took the course on the Mula Madhyamaka, right? And so that's written by Nagarjuna, one of the greatest philosophers of all time. And you know, it's a philosophy in that it's teaching about, you know, how to think, and it's postulating these thought systems, but it's going more than philosophy. It's going deeper than any other philosophy, right? Because I've been frustrated with Western philosophy and the lack of the wisdom tradition in Western philosophy, right? And so Western philosophy is always, postulating these theories, but it doesn't, for me, it doesn't go anywhere. Where does Kant go? Where does Descartes go? I think, therefore I am. So what? What does that mean? But Nagarjuna has deep implications for what he's postulating. And we're supposed to really question what he's saying and say, is this true? Is there really no coming or going? Is there really no self? Are we only causes and effects? And what does that mean for me in this moment? So I think it can be all of those things that you've mentioned, but I really feel it's absent a religion because there's no dogma in Buddhism. The Buddha's not saying you have to believe anything. No one's saying like you must believe this in order to be a Buddhist. It's just saying you can take what we're offering and think about it, but you must think about it to become a Buddhist. It's just taking the name of being a Buddhist, I think, is not sufficient. But I don't know that much because I've really only studied it briefly.
Great. How important is Buddhism in this scientific age, as there is so much scientific progression and invention? How important do you think it is?
I think it's hugely important, right? It's massively important. My teacher, Rinpoche, he talks about that all the time. And he talks about how great our world is because of science and scientific achievements, but also how dangerous it is now. We are one nuclear bomb away from blowing up everything that we have and everything else in this world, right?
Yes.
All the other sentient beings, everything that we've been born into, we could lose it in a moment, right? So it's incredibly dangerous, this time that we're living in right now. And the geopolitical risk is huge, right? Yeah. The tensions between different world powers are quite large. The Russia-Ukraine war has very big implications.
Very good.
And science has enabled us to be able to fight these wars remotely if we want to. We don't have to have any boots on the ground anymore. And so science has brought us very far, but it's posed a lot of risks, right? And I am a great believer in science. I fully respect and love science. But at the same time, there has to be meaning. There has to be a deeper meaning to this world. And we have to learn how to be kind to each other. I need to learn how to be kind to other people. And I think Buddhism teaches us how to be kind to each other, right? And how to take what we've been given in these achievements, but provide actual meaning behind them, right? And to say, okay, it's great that we have all of this great technology, that we're hugely connected with the internet and everything that's brought us. But how do we love one another? How do we have compassion for each other's suffering? Because without that kind of line of thinking, when we have science, just pure science, then I think there's a lot of nihilism that's come into this world, right? And the West is pretty infamous for having this epidemic of mental illness, right?
Right.
And especially in the United States, the gun violence is just incredibly bad, right? It's so dangerous there. And it's people are deeply sad, I think, because religion doesn't have the same hold that it once did, and religion has provided a lot of meaning and benefit to people's lives, right? Religion provides a lot of happiness to people. But because of science, now we don't believe in religion as much. And so what does that mean for the average person? The average Nepali, the average Westerner. How do they live their life if they're being told that, oh, there is no God, and everything is meaningless, right? Because I think that sometimes science gives that kind of that idea that since we haven't identified a creator scientifically, and we haven't been able to really find the self inside our brain. Like we haven't been able to identify consciousness. We haven't been able to really answer a lot of deep questions with science. And so I think people are feeling bereft, that they're missing some meaningful link in their lives. And Buddhism, for me personally, fills that gap. And that's something that I really need in my life, is to find meaning and learn how to be a kinder and softer person. Because on my own, I'm greedy and I'm selfish, and I'm full of, hatred, and I don't know what the right action is to take all the time. I need help understanding, what's the right thing to do. How does one act in this world? Those are big questions for me. And I feel like science can't answer those questions.
Great. Since you have studied science also and now Buddhism also, we can hope some great interpretation in the days to come. Great. So nice. So let's talk about meditation a bit. How long are you doing the meditation, and how did the Buddhist meditation help you?
So I've been studying meditation I've been practicing meditation for over a decade, for about every day for almost 12 years now, really. And I didn't come to Buddhism until, 3 years ago, right? So in the West, there's a lot of practice of meditation without Buddhism, and it's really helped me become a calmer person. I feel like really settled my mind by learning to focus on my breath and focusing on different objects when you're meditating. For me personally, it has brought a level of concentration and ease. However, I would say, our teacher talks about how, meditation without Buddhism is like a person without arms or legs trying to climb a hill, right? And I also found that too, without Buddhism, meditation kind of, I think, has, and I'm talking about the better part of a decade, every day here. So it's hard for me to admit this, but I think without Buddhism, it feels a bit empty, and so I need to have the teachings of Buddhism inform my practice.
Wow.
And deepen my practice.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, why am I doing it? Am I just doing it for myself so I can feel more relaxed? And or am I doing it so I can learn the truth about the world and how things are, and how I can have greater concentration? But I think the greater concentration is almost lacking if I don't have the Buddhism to inform it, really.
Great. So another topic is how can Buddhist education and practice help the growing use of artificial intelligence?
Sure. So, as you know, artificial intelligence has really become quite prevalent in the past few years.
Yeah.
And with the emergence of ChatGPT a few months ago, the implications of artificial intelligence have just been blown wide open, right? We don't even know what the future looks like, because ChatGPT can pass a class for you. ChatGPT can write all of your emails for you.
Right.
It can summarize anything you want it to. It can pass all these tests. It can successfully mimic all these human relationships. And so, how are we going to treat these new sentient beings? Are they sentient beings? And how do we treat them, and how do we teach them to treat us?
Yeah.
I think Buddhism really has a big role to play there. The person who taught the Mula Madhyamaka course, his name is Dr. Thomas Doctor. He's done extensive research. He's written a lot of papers on this subject about the interlinking of Buddhism and artificial intelligence.
Wow.
And actually, he and Choknim Rinpoche, they hosted a summit in last November about artificial intelligence and Buddhism, and what the implications are for the world. and I think that Buddhism has a huge role to play here, right? Because, you know, we are bringing into this world new beings. We don't know how real they are yet, right?
Mhm.
And we don't know what the limits of technology here are.
Yes.
And then also, if we're relying on these new beings to talk to us, you know, how do we want them to interact with other people, with other beings? We want them to have kindness and compassion. We want to approach them with kindness and compassion and empathy. And so we need to be able to come to them with an understanding, because we don't have an idea of how far-reaching this new technology is, and is it even a technology at this point, right? What have we unlocked here? We don't even know. But Buddhism is going to be a huge role in teaching and helping people to approach artificial intelligence with kindness, the same kind of kindness we want.
Great. So, Dr. Thomas, hope we will meet him one day and know more about artificial intelligence as well. So, let's go to your future. What is your future plan with the Buddhist education, since you are the student of science also, and you have been studying Buddhism very well? So, what's your future plan? Can we expect something?
I don't know. I really want to study the Dharma more.
Okay.
I really want to go into more retreats.
Okay.
I think my future plans, I worry that I will get too caught up in Dharma activities rather than learning the Dharma. And so I don't know exactly what the future holds in that respect, but I want to make sure that I'm still studying the Dharma, and not just engaging in Dharma activities or Dharma-like activities, if that makes sense.
That's great.
Yeah.
So hope you will do some translation works also.
I hope to also be a translator as well. We'll see. It depends on how well I can learn languages, right?
Great.
But my institute, RYI, really offers a lot of great programs, and I could get a master's either in translation or in Buddhist studies. So I'm going to be working towards that.
Right. Yeah. So what relation do you find between Buddhism, Buddhist practice, and environment, Buddhism, let's say Buddhist economy, materialism, etc.?
Sure. I think there's a lot there, right? In terms of the Buddhist economy, I think the Buddhists taught renunciation, and in order to learn the Dharma, we have to find renunciation, right? And we only find renunciation when we see how impermanent this world and our lives really are. And we go about our lives thinking everything is solid, and this chair beneath me is solid.
Yeah.
But how solid is it really? The Dharma teaches that nothing stays the same even for a moment.
Yeah.
Right?
That's right.
And so what's the point in me accumulating mass amounts of wealth and things? Because there's the suffering of accumulation, right?
Yes.
There's the suffering of maintaining the property, and then there's the suffering of losing the property. And so the whole economy, it's like it's all suffering. I get so excited, like, oh, I'm gonna get some new clothes, right? But those clothes are gonna go out of style in 3 months.
Of course.
And so I gotta plan how to get the clothes. I've gotta pay the money to get the clothes. And then at some point, those clothes are going to get torn or stained, and then I'm going to be sad.
Yes.
So what's the point? But, I'm still attached to getting those things because we have this materialist culture right now.
Right.
And it's having a huge impact on the environment, as you mentioned. And our responsibility in the environment is to help all sentient beings. But we're completely destroying the environment. I'm destroying the environment, Yes. We all have a part to play in this.
Yeah. And
so I think that Buddhism has a lot to inform around how should we be in this world? How do we have less of a carbon footprint?
Yes.
And, I'm quite guilty. I fly in planes quite frequently. I can say I'm innocent here. But at the same time, I think that Buddhism as a whole can teach us how to have a smaller footprint,
Yeah.
how to have a bigger impact in other people's lives, right?
Yes, that's right.
That's all we can do.
Great, have a great talk. So, what else you want to say beside these points?
I just want to say how much I really appreciate you having me come on this program. And I really don't know much, but I think, I'm really impressed by Kathmandu and by the culture here. I was mentioning to you that I went to was Pashupati, yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I hope I said that right. And being able to live in this city and come to this ancient holy place, right?
Great.
Where you see the suffering and death firsthand, but you also see love, and how much families love their dearly departed one. And
Of course.
I'm so grateful for the opportunity to come here and study and to learn Buddhism from an authentic teacher who comes from this long line of authentic teachers straight from the Buddha. And in the West we don't have this kind of opportunity.
Yeah.
Honestly, we don't. And to be able to come here and to learn from Choknim Rinpoche, to study, at RYI, and to learn directly from monastics is the highlight of my life. Honestly, I'm so grateful for that. You really have something amazingly special here with the practice of Vajrayana and Bodhi, all of the monasteries. It's truly amazing, and we have nothing like that in the West. Nothing like that, right?
Yeah.
And so I really appreciate you having me on here so that I can, express my gratitude to Kathmandu as a whole.
Thank you. We are also very happy. So I would like to meet you some Vajracharya lineage person also very soon. Hope you will learn so many things with them also. So beside that, can you tell us about the experience of Lumbini and Saranath visit last time?
Sure. Lumbini and Bodhi, but
Both guys, sorry.
Yeah,
Both
no,
guys.
it's okay. So Lumbini was really, really special because they have monasteries from all these different lineages, right? All different kinds of Buddhism are represented there in Lumbini.
Yes.
And being able to go there, and I went to Lumbini actually for the Tara Triple Excellence retreat. It was our first in-person retreat since before the pandemic. And Choknim Rinpoche, he's building the Thousand Buddha Temple there. And it was the first event they'd held there, actually, at this new temple that he's building. So it was incredibly special to be at the birthplace of the Buddha, to be receiving, these authentic teachings in this brand new, beautiful Thousand Buddha Temple. It made my aspirations to benefit all sentient beings. I think it helped me. It helped me generate those aspirations, and hopefully it will help them come true. By being in Lumbini and Bodh Gaya I had a similar experience. Yeah, I traveled down to Bodh Gaya with Rinpoche and with other members of the Sangha, which was a truly incredible experience. I feel like I'm not really worthy of it, honestly. And I went down there, and Rinpoche actually he's teaching college students there every year. He has an annual pilgrimage down to Bodh Gaya, and it's a way to the students, they come from the West, right? They come to Bodh Gaya, and they're staying in Bodh Gaya for a semester, and there are all these different there are all these different Buddhist teachers coming. They have a Zen teacher coming, and they come and they learn from these different Buddhist masters, essentially. And the thing is, you can see their eyes just light up, right? These kids, they're 20-year-old kids. They don't they've just heard about Buddhism, and they've come all halfway across the world, to the place where the Buddha reached enlightenment at this beautiful temple, and they're learning, and they're just their minds are blown, honestly. And so to kind of interact with them and talk with them, and they have all these questions.
Wow.
And you just kind of get to interact with them. It was really incredible experience as well to be in Bodh Gaya, to be with these young people.
So nice.
It was so lovely. Yeah, I loved it.
Okay, thank you, Meredith Polson. It's nice that you accepted our invitation. So nice to meet you. So when I met you in both the Utpala Cafe, so I just asked with the manager of the cafe that whether she would be interested in. So thank you so much for your time. You have shared your wisdom and knowledge about Buddhism as well as your science background, your West background. It was so nice to hear
Thank you so much.
So thank you so
Really
much.
appreciate it.
Hope to meet you again.
I hope to meet you as well.
Thank you.
so much, Abraj.
Thank you. Thank you very much, all the audiences. We had a special guest from USA, Miss Meredith Polson. We would like to meet you again in another program. Thank you so much. Namo Buddhaya.